Day 2, Tuesday, the second half of my book hunt week. This morning I'm in Bath. I'm going to see my friend Graham, he of the stunning SF collection. We might film a bit more of that. We might just look in his duplicates box. Well, I've been up to see my friend Graham, bought a few books. I'll show you those a bit later on. And as I say, it's this sort of second day of my hauls on a Tuesday. I'm in Avoncliff by the Kennet and Avon canal. And me and Graham are going to go and have a pint and something to eat. But I'll show you how beautiful there is in Avoncliff. Won't be a moment. And this, of course, is an aqueduct for the canal. Lovely, eh? So this is where we're going, the cross guns at Avoncliff, which is rather nice, as you see. We're going to go down there now. This is the beer garden, and this is where we're going to do an outdoor book haul and drink and eat. We're discussing coal canals and things like that, industrial archaeology. Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? Approaching the pub. Yeah, I should sit down there with the chaps and have a beer, so we'll go and see now. Well, this is the thing, often very nice things are on one's doorstep, aren't they? Yeah. There are fish there if you look in the middle of the frame beyond those bricks, and you've got all these lovely water plants, and up there that's the Kennet and Avon aqueduct, which I showed you earlier in the video. Idyllic, isn't it? And across the river you can just see there in the centre of the frame, see that staircase? That's where the railway halt is. So we'll show you that as well. So we'll show you a bit of everything. The glories of the West Country. Really is good to have some downtime and to get outside. And it's supposed to rain here. It rained torrentially when we were on the way here from the far side of Bath. And you know, you just can't tell with the weather these days. Global warming is what it is, of course.
Something like Eber Gorge would be cool to walk, or the Roman mineries up on top of the mountain.
Yeah.
You know, which are still being used by the Romans. You know.
Yeah, the West Country. You know, I do bang on about it, but it is really nice. You know, so here's to cider. Book haul. First of all, on the book haul, Paul J. Macaulay, Red Dust, Gollancz A format paperback. Let's reposition the camera here. So what have we got to say about this, Graham?
It's got a Jim Burns cover.
It's got a Jim Burns cover, that's right. Now, what year is this? Are we going to guess? VGSF, that dates it late 80s. It's $4.99. It's A format, naturally.
Could be about 91.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Let's have a quick look. And so we're making this up as we go along, as you see. 1993 hardcover, 94 paperback. Very handsome.
Later than I thought.
Yeah, Unbroken Spine.
So it's a modern book now.
It's a modern book. As far as we're concerned, it's a modern
book. It was only
book.
released last week.
Yeah, 1993 was only last week. Well, that's about the time where I kind of lost interest in SF for a few years. So, and I have met Paul once. He's very nice. I was never that enamoured of his work, but I'm ready for years. So I decided, as Graham had this in his duplicates box, I should give it a go. So we'll find out about that. I'll let you know when I've read it. That could be years from now, of course. So moving on, what else do we have? Let's see. Right, So this is interesting because this is a non-genre book, but it's genre related.
Very much an interzone author.
An interzone author, Neil Ferguson, putting out in Abacus. It actually looks like a paladin, doesn't it? I thought it was a paladin first of all, till I looked at the back earlier on. And I remember reading he wrote SF short stories, didn't he?
Yeah, for interzone.
Yeah. So I guess he was rather like Scott Bradfield. His work was generally
well, it was slipstream.
Slipstream, as we used to say, published as mainstream, but with an SF flavour. And this looks like an SF novel, but it is a mainstream novel, and beautiful. You don't see much of these sort of things around these days. Now I bought these from you because you obviously have these in hardcover and other editions, don't you?
Yes,
that's what it is. So that's what's happening, folks.
Yeah, that's why they're duplicates.
That's why they're duplicates.
It's only because I have other versions.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be duplicates. So, somebody we were discussing a while ago, somebody I've never paid a lot of attention to, and I should have. And there's the train going by, is Wilson Tucker, and this is Ice and Iron. Let me just reposition the camera a moment, because this is a slightly bigger book. So there we go, Ice and Iron in hardcover. This is a book club edition, and I know much of this you're seeing because of course we're getting overcast and things. And is this Doubleday? Yeah, it is Doubleday, isn't it? So, and I started to read Year of the Quiet Sun once, which was in Pringle's 100 Best SF Novels. And I think Jim Goddard has told me off for not reading Wilson Tucker, but there you go. So that's that. And you've read that one? Have you read that
have,
one? Yeah, this is sort of like a New Ice Age type thing, isn't it?
Is,
yeah, looks good. Now the Wilson Tucker, which I started to read once and didn't finish, it wasn't because it was bad, it was probably more about my mood, was this one, The Year of the Quiet Sun. And I think this is the one which is in the Pringle book.
It is, yeah.
And what's the basic scenario in this one? Is this the one where everybody white is wiped out, or is it everybody black?
It's everybody black is
killed
in a war of genocide.
Yeah, so genocide. So it's sort of race conscious, and so that's very relevant, isn't it, to the current narrative? And when did this come out? Let's have a think. I have no idea when this was published. Yeah, I would have thought 50s,
mid-60s.
Let's see. This edition's copyrighted in 1970, but I think it's earlier than that. And it has a dedication that has the word grok in it, so that dates it to the 60s to me. First published by Hale, and this is Arrow, of course. I bet the Hale ones were at the bottom.
I bet it is.
So there you go. Slightly leaning spine Graham, but I think I can let you off with that because it's quite nice. So there we go. So that's the next one. What else do we have? Well, as we're in an A format frenzy, let's go further. This is a book which I've read, but not for many years. This is one of Michael Moorcock's favourite SF novels, and it's in compact, which of course has a connection to Moorcock. Has a connection to Moorcock because it was compact published SF Impulse, didn't they? Which was a magazine in book format like this. They published some of Moorcock's work under other names. And they did Judith Merrill, and I think Keith Roberts used to do lots of their cover art. And the cover art on that was quite nice. And this is a story about art, isn't it? I seem to remember. And I remember thinking it was really good at the time. There's a couple of other stories in here as well. So I've long considered getting that back in the collection. So because GB here has 2 copies, then I've got it back, which is great. So I'm just going to shift these because I think we're getting the tilt effect there. Right, that's better. Let's see what else we've got. So
listing to starboard.
Listing to starboard. We should continue with A format action. And what have we got here? C.J. Cherry, Brothers of Earth, in Orbit. Very nice. A format again. And of course, C.J. Cherry, Carolyn Cherry, she famously added the H to the end of her name to make it more interesting and more like an SF writer's name. Because of course, you know, back in the day they were all East European and Migres and stuff, and they had weird names like Asimov and Van Vogt and Heinlein. So, you know, we need to get that back, you know. You know, if you've got an ordinary name, writers, change it to something interesting. I mean, Adrian Tchaikovsky does all right because he sounds Russian, but, you know, if your name is Ken Smith or something, you know, change it. That's what I say. And this is the second novel, isn't it? So, and you've read some Cherry, haven't you? And,
I read Rim Runners,
yeah,
which I enjoyed.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's about the only one.
Yeah, she's got a huge critical reputation, bestseller in the States. I remember years ago in the 90s when we had our SF book club, we read, I think it must have been Down Below Station.
It could have been. Yeah.
And I wasn't that fussed on the time, at the time. I do have a, what is it? It's one of those science fiction book club ones, which I mentioned in a recent video, and I said that the lady on the front looks like she's holding an air freshener, shaken vac or airwick. So, and this gets compared to Dune on the back. Now, I'm not a massive fan of Dune. I generally feel Dune is a big, fat, dumb book that does have some good ideas, some bad writing, and I think Silverberg does that sort of thing better. But I was saying, wasn't I, about writers early on, you can often see that struggle between trying to be original and the commercial thing.
Yes,
So that'll be an interesting one. So, gosh, we've got more turbulence here. I think at this point we'll cut and edit. Okay, so slight change of camera angle. Let's see what we've got. Let's do some hardcovers. And I think I dug these out at your place probably a few years ago and said I wouldn't mind them if ever you're getting rid of them. And what we have here is Richard Cadry, Kamikaze L'amour, a novel of the future, and there it is. And Richard Cadry, what is he best known for? I would say Metrophage, Graham.
Yeah, cyberpunk era.
Yeah, I mean, one of the original cyberpunk books, but as far as we were concerned, a late one, wasn't it? It must have been 87, 88. Metrophage was a Gollancz Yellow Jacket, one of the later Gollancz Yellow Jackets, the ones which haven't got such nice livery, but that we miss enormously. And this one, I don't think this was ever published in the UK. And it's got a rock star as a character, which is pretty cyberpunk. Gibson and Cadogan say nice things about it. It's St Martin's Press. St Martin's are doing quite a lot of SF then, weren't they? Remember they did Farewell Horizontal, didn't they? It's the first thing that comes to mind, by K.W. Jeter, one of the more memorable books that era. But you know, Cadry is good. So, and of course these days he's best known for the Sandman Slim books, which are sort of like gothy sort of things, and sort of gothy horror fantasy novels. And they've been sort of really popular, you know, they're quite culty but are quite popular, and he's done about a dozen of those now. So that's his sort of Jim Busher Dresden Files thing, I guess, really. Then we have, I'm actually going to move that because I've got a bag here and it'll blow away because of the wind factor.
The wind from nowhere.
That's, yeah, the wind from nowhere. That's not the wind that will come from us after
wind
that beer.
from Bath Eastern.
The wind from Bath Eastern. And this is The Orchid Eater by Mark Laidlaw. Now this is St Martin's as well, very handsome book, St Martin's, and these are sort of 90s books, and this is described as a novel of suspense. And I really like Mark. I was corresponding with him a while ago, probably a couple of years ago. For a while we got sort of quite chummy online and stuff, and I wrote a review online of his book White Spawn, which was PS, which is a really amazing little sort of horror novella, very subtle and a very amazing opening, a guy driving a lorry through this strange valley, and it's all centered around this river, so it does feel a tad Lovecraftian, but only in a very subtle way, and it's a great book. So this is going to be interesting. But the author of California with a K, and of course that's not California the film, that's California the novel, which predates the film or the TV series, whatever it was. It had the guy from the X-Files in it, didn't it? So, very, very handsome there. So that's going to be interesting. But yeah, Mark's probably best known in the UK for a very funny satirical book called Dad's Nuke. I know Les Escott was always a big fan of Dad's Nuke, and I did read it back in the day. And it had a very Dickian sort of feel to it, very funny satirical book. And here comes the train, so we'll probably cut again now. Okay, final stretch of this mini haul, this Riverside pub mini book haul, and this is Theodore Sturgeon, of course, the Pluribus Unicorn, which is a pun on, now it's a political thing in the USA, isn't it? There's going to be loads of people in the States screaming at the TV now. It's what is it? Is it E Pluribus Unum? We are one people, or something like that. Something like that, isn't it? Yeah. Forgive our dreadful knowledge, our ignorance. Let's be honest about it. And this is Panther. And I would say, looking at that, I used to actually have a copy of it. I don't know why I got rid of it. It's beautiful. I love that title. It's so clever and difficult and awkward and strange, and you know that's what you want from SF. SF has to be strange now and again. And let's see, it's short stories, of course. And I'm just going to whip it out of camera. It's on nice paper. This is a 1969 reprint. It had several printings, and it first came out in '59 by the look of it. And that's Panther, of course, before it became Mayflower, Granada and Grafton. And Sturgeon, you know, huge critical reputation. Where do you stand on Sturgeon, Graham?
I think he'd probably overrated. I've read a few books of his, but
I have to say I agree. He's always been so revered, hasn't he? And I think maybe it's that thing. Do you think it's that thing where because he came out of the golden age, because he had a story in that 1939 issue of Astounding, which also had Van Vogt and Asimov and Heinlein, is sort of like the key moment in the Campbellian golden age. And Ether Breather was the story in that. And I think it's because he was obviously a better writer in a literary sense than them. But I always found him very uneven personally. But I reread More Than Human about a year ago, and some of it's great and some of it really doesn't work for me, but yes, you know, there is more Sturgeon work to go, but I guess I've upset loads of people again. And then we have a 90s book, The Hormone Jungle by Robert Reed, who was somebody who caused quite a bit of a splash in the 90s, wasn't he? Yeah. And obviously you read this because it's a duplicate, which is why you're selling them to me. I remember this coming out. This is from the period where I wasn't that fussed on SF. Orbit, there you go, A format. And I think it was Black Milk, his big book. It's the one I remember. It's a good title.
It was the first one, Black Milk.
Yeah, it was the first one, wasn't it? Yeah.
I think, obviously.
Yeah, I think this had quite a lot of acclaim as well at the time. And winner of the Writers of the Future Award. Now, there's a golden age thing there, because Writers of the Future was sponsored by, do you remember, New Era Publications, which was L. Ron Hubbard's.
Yes, I know.
The Scientology people were publishing Hubbard, and I think he was dead by that point. And they used to just send dump bins out. I remember I was working in a bookshop in Bath in '85, and one day we just had a dump bin of Battlefield Earth delivered. We didn't order it, they just send it out and hope you'd pay for it and sell it, but we weren't for that. And that was a big thing at the Warcon as well. They had a big presence there and people weren't happy about it because the money was coming from and going to Scientology. So there we are. It's not so much the wind from nowhere as the wind in the willows here at Avoncliff. So that's a outdoor mini book haul. And what am I doing next? Well, I plan to go to Cardiff, so maybe I'll shoot some stuff there. So this is probably all the Avoncliff footage, and I think we're going to take a tootle over and have a look at the railway halt. So you know, you might get some bonus railway content, but for now, cheers. Here's to part 3. Nice cider. So a noble repast, an outdoor book haul, and now to explore the local railway halt, Tops. So this is the pub side of the Kennet and Avon Canal aqueduct at Avoncliff. So we'll just give you 180 onwards. Is there a pillbox? We'll have a look now. Straight ahead. And there is a pillbox straight ahead. Let's take a look at that. Not the sort of thing you'd use in a pillbox hat, but there you go. We're going to take a stroll down now, he said, tripping over, down to the halt at Avoncliff. And I have several times got the train out here from Bath and met up with some of the chaps and done some carousing, as they say. So I'll just fall down these steps, bear with me. This is for those of you who like railway interests, as Sigmund Freud said. If you go to your old Penguin copy of Freud on sexuality and look up railway interests, you'll be quite surprised what his theories were. Well, you won't, because of course he was a cocaine addict and he was obsessed with sex. The only problem really with getting the train back from here is all the timetables are wrong, so you end up leaving the pub too late or too early and you miss it and you're here for 45 minutes, and the temptation then is to go back up to the pub, which of course is a very strong temptation. Yes, a really nice neat little halt, isn't it? You've got, that's the view back to Bath, and we'll just sweep around and you can see the steps there. So usually one disembarks on that side, strolls over the aqueduct then to the old cross guns, does an outdoor book haul, has a drink, has a burger, that sort of thing, and then, you know, you go and do the railway interests. Fantastic. I was just saying, when I come out and do these out and abouts, there's no script. I just gibber on and make all this stuff up. And as Graham said, nothing new there then. So there you go. So we're at the halt now. Maybe I'm waiting for the train, maybe not. But halts mean a lot to me because I grew up next to a railway halt, which was closed down by the time I was old enough to have got the train. Avoncliff today has less than 50 permanent residents, not counting canal users. Yet when the GWR came through the valley in 1857, there were over 300 people here. There was a Bradford Union workhouse. Now I guess you would say that's a guy, but is it Jane Austen? It's some sort of figure there, and I tend to see it from the train when I'm going to Trowbridge. It's a scarecrow. That's a good point. It probably is a scarecrow, isn't it? Good stuff. So I think that's the end of my Bath-based adventures for today. Next, Cardiff.